Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Wizards Keep Devlog. This will hopefully be the first game I ever make and release, and I'm super excited to show you the initial progress I've made and some of the assets I've managed to draw. A small disclaimer though, this is all a work in progress and what you see here may or may not be in the release. And since I've never released a game before, you're going to see a lot of mistakes and stumbles. But the goal of this is to learn the process and to put something out there that I've created. So let's get started, as I chip away at making this into a demo for a Vampire Survivors-like game. So let's start with the game idea. Like any Survivors-like game, the goal is to have hordes of enemies come at you as you defeat them, collect XP, and level up your character. Once you hit game over or the time runs out, you head back to your keep where you can buy permanent upgrades with the experience you gained by playing. Typically, each level comes with a choice of possible upgrades, and while I also plan to do that, I hope to deviate slightly. The goal is that every 5 levels, you get 4 options to mutate your base projectile, and every 10 levels, the combination of those 2 chosen mutators at level 5 and 10 respectively will permanently alter your projectile. This should create a fun gameplay loop with good replayability, as even choosing the same school of magic, for example fire, can have your play branch out as you invest in a different part of the skill tree. If you remember my previous prototype of the same name, I decided to scrap it entirely and rebuild it from scratch. The days of work that the prototype took me to make now only took me a couple of hours. And I decided to change the static nature of the player character, and now you can move around in the 2D world. I hand drew a little wizard as the titular character, as well as a work-in-progress projectile and a heads-up display or HUD. In the prototype, I had it so left-clicking would cause the projectile to fire, but I changed that. Now the projectile auto-fires in whatever direction the player's mouse is pointing in after a set spell attack interval goes off. I wanted my custom UI to represent that and had 3 bars to represent experience, health, and the spell timer. Next came the logic for the enemies. One of the biggest differences between this version and the prototype is the organizational structure. This is a much cleaner and easier to read project as a whole. In the prototype, each enemy was its own scene that would be created when it was given the signal to be spawned. In an effort to consolidate my work and make the process of adding more enemies less tedious, I used custom resources in Godot. Think of these as custom classes that store the information you tell it to. Now instead of making a new scene for each enemy, I can make a single enemy and then make separate enemy resources, save them as a new name, and then click and drag it onto my enemy to have everything populate as I need to per case basis. This is a wonderful feature and makes sure that I don't have to change things scene by scene if fixes are needed. I didn't stop with incorporating resources for just the enemies. In fact, the projectiles and even the type of wizard you play as are all managed through custom resources. I can't express enough how wonderful using resources are for my workflow, and I'm sure it'll help with eventual scalability and additions to the game. But that wasn't the only organizational improvement I made. I really struggled with keeping track of what the start and end points were for signals throughout my game. This time I made a SignalBus. This is just an auto-loaded script that serves as the nexus point for all signals that go in and out between scenes. Think of this as a central hub. With this, I had an easy way to emit and connect signals and could properly track where my inputs and outputs were coming from. One thing I noticed regarding the enemy movement is that when you start kiting enemies, they bunch up and overlap too much. This is because they have the same exact target destination, the player. So to improve my enemy targeting, I added 8 markers evenly distributed around the player character, and I made it so that enemies randomly target one of these. This doesn't completely stop bunching enemies, but now there's something fighting against that as each enemy has a slightly different point they're moving towards. Alongside different enemy speeds and sprites, the bunching should be mitigated with each addition in the future. With improved targeting, I also set up and tested the signal for gaining experience when an enemy is killed. Having it emit and properly reflect in the HUD felt great. I finished off this batch of progress by adding some menus. While not the flashiest, menus are an important quality of life for the player. I added a main menu, a character and level select screen, pause screen, and a working options menu. I also worked on supporting different resolutions and messing with settings so that the pixel art is properly scaled and preserved no matter the monitor settings. This came to mind after adding different resolutions and seeing the pixel art distorted in horrifying ways. So what's the plan for future features? The next progression of this project is drawing many more assets. I want to get at least 1 enemy drawn and included. I want to have a proper backdrop via pixel art tile sets, and I want to improve the look of the firebolt that the wizard currently has as its lone projectile. I also want some small features in game mechanics such as experience and health drops in order to lay the foundation for the leveling mechanics and give the player some more tactile feedback. But with that, I know I have plenty of work ahead of me and I'm excited to get to it. If you've enjoyed this devlog, please consider liking and subscribing. And feel free to check out some of my other videos where I document my journey of learning how to be a game dev through a number of different prototypes and projects. Let me know what you think of my initial progress on Wizards Keep, and I hope to see you in the next devlog. Until next time.